Hi everybody, welcome back. Today is the big day. Have our worms come up? We're going to check right now. Let's go. So first things first, this old crusty piece of cardboard as usual. Off it goes, and we're left with this lovely piece of plastic and paper. I have actually checked on these twice, yesterday and day before. So day one and day two, if that makes sense. Today is day 3 since setting this up to check and make sure that the worms are coming up into this catchment tray. Good news, there were more worms yesterday than the day before, so it tells me that it's working. I haven't checked today, but today's day 3, and this is the time that Captain Matt talks about removing his mesh cloth into a new tray. So just a quick, I'll show you a quick recap of what happened on day 2 and day 3. So this is 24 hours exactly since I set up this catch basket. Let's get rid of that. Okay, from the condensation we can see that the moisture level is good. Let's check this temperature. 85.8. So it's a little bit on the high side, 86. But that's fine. These are African night crawlers, so they can thrive in temperatures of up to 100. My main thing is really just to see if they're coming up, because that's the whole point of this. Just put one glove on. That smell is still there a little bit. So worms are here. They're coming up. Check in day 2. So tomorrow I'll be harvesting these, but the first round at least. But I want to just take a quick look to see what's going on. Nice, lots of worms on top. Got some worms on this plastic, on this paper here. Moisture's good. It's full of worms. I will give it some more moisture. I really want them to come up into this. That should be enough. So that's it really, nothing just too drastic, just some water, a really good feed of water. I'm just lifting here, you can't see, but as I lift there's worms all in the bottom of this trying to go up, so I'm just hoping that that moisture will attract them to come up. Just that little feed as well might make a big difference. Right, so as you can see, there were more worms. I did give it a feeding, so there might be some chow on top of this. I can't see any. Looks like everything got eaten. Again, really cool number of worms on here. Before we get stuck in, I have to confess, I had a bit of an issue. I found a whole bunch of tubs. When I say tubs, they were like plastic boxes, maybe about 8 or 9 inches tall, maybe not even that much, maybe 7 inches tall. They were used, and there was like 75 of them, and they was being sold for like $2.50 each. And I thought, amazing. Unfortunately, my car was in the shop. I couldn't get to the location, so I asked them to reserve them for me and have them sent to me. I phoned them a couple of days ago, and apparently someone else that was in the facility sold them to someone else by mistake, so that is a bit of a bummer. So now I don't have any mortar trays available, or big size trays, for me to be able to transfer these guys into temporarily until I have this one empty. So I know people say that you shouldn't use a clear plastic tub, but this is a deep tub, and I'm just going to dump them in here because that's all I have. Honestly, I was about to take a cardboard box, line it with this kind of plastic, and just hope for the best. But luckily I had one of these spare sitting around, so I'm just going to use that for now. So first things first, let's peel this off. There is a little worm on here. Let's put that down. Oh, fella, come off. Any more in here? I can't see any more. I'm just going to fold this up and put it out of the way. So let us put on a glove. Just because I know this is going to get messy, and I have to reset this tray again. This time, rather than using the peat moss that I use for the breeder bins, I actually have other bedding that was prepared with dried leaves, exactly the same, but just with dried leaves from our weed blower, and that has been sitting around for a week, and that's really moist as well, so I'm going to use that. So if I just pick this up, there are still worms on the top of that, on the top of this bin here, which means they're still coming through. We are going to give it a fluff, but I'm going to have to just do this to show you guys what's going on. So these guys are have gone back down. There's a couple on the top. We're going to go through that in a minute, but you can see that moisture, the difference in moisture between those. Sorry, I know I've gone freehand. I've just stood this up in this bucket here. Oops, hello. Oh shit, my bad. Sorry, wormies. See, we had some escape into here, and I've got one on the floor as well. Sorry, buddy. Hope you didn't get too stressed. I am no decent cameraman, I'll tell you that much, to be freehanding this. So let me just move this out of the way, and I'll bring it closer and center the camera. Okay, so apart from making a colossal mess, I would say that was a success. There's still worms everywhere. There's worms in all of the castings that I dropped, like twists and baby worms. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to show you what's in here. So that is quite a lot of worms. And they seem quite happy in this bedding. Let's move that forward a little bit. Like literally, there must be over 1,000 worms just in this, which is fantastic. It definitely needs a little bit of moisture, even though, as you saw from the last video, from the last section in day 3, that I had given it a good moisture, but the population in this just keeps on exploding. Let's go. So we're really happy with this. I'm going to reload the the basket again, but before we do that, let's check to see how densely populated the bin is, how many worms are left in there. So before we do that, the only thing I noticed, you might be able to see here that the duct tape had come apart a little bit, and there's a couple of worms that were basically fighting me and just sliding in between the basket and the duct tape. So I don't mind if there's a couple of worms left in here, just because we're going to use it again. I'll only take off the duct tape and I'll give it a good wash before I use it again. So I'll just put this, and there were loads of worms stuck to the bottom of this, which you still can see here. There's one here, there's one here. I think I saw a cocoon as well. But yeah, so I'm not too fussed about that. I'm just going to dump this in here just for the time being. Okay. So the moment of truth. We've been watching this bin. Yes, okay, it's a bit dry. The moisture level on here is great because obviously the moisture's been going through. Oh my God. So many worms. But mostly on the top, not on the bottom. Or I might be wrong. Nope, on the bottom too. I mean, we might have to repeat this process a few times to get all of these worms out, because there's thousands, and I'd be interested actually to know. I'd be interested to know how many worms we actually have in these, but it would be impossible to count them all. Okay. Amazing. These castings feel great. There's just so many worms in here. I'm just giving it a good fluff because I really want to just get the bedding a bit drier. Yeah, so many worms. This might take a few tries. I think with Captain Matt's, this might take a few tries until this dries out, and if I still can't get them out after 3 goes, which is 10 days in total, or 9 days in total, I'm hoping that the bedding, castings will be dry enough for me to be able to sift this. So that's going to be, I think, the last trick, or the last tool in our kit. So just look at these castings. Absolute quality. One thing is for sure, once I do separate these castings from these worms, I'm definitely going to be using this method to draw out the worms once any cocoons and wisps that I left over, or baby worms that go through the sifter, anything that's sort of left through, I want to try and bait them out with using that method, using that there. So that's great. That's our trap, and all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go and get some of that new bedding. And we're back. So I just got a big green bucket of this bedding. It was sitting outside. It did have a ton of moisture in it, and it still probably does a little bit below the surface. And we're back. So I just got big, so twigs and all, doesn't matter. This is just peat moss, my regular bedding for the breeding, which is the peat moss with coffee grinds and gypsum. But then there's a ton of leaves in here, and as you can see, it's really wet, which is fantastic, because that's what I want. I want this moisture to really attract these worms. Oh. The only thing that I've forgotten is adding the worm gel to this, which we're going to do right now. I'm just going to generous handful. And again, there's loads of leaves and everything else in here, and coffee grinds for them to eat in here, but just to give them a little bit of an extra incentive to come up. Excellent. So this is really good stuff. You can see some of the good where I'd put so many leaves in there. Some of it's still unmixed. That's fine. And obviously this is going to be this will constitute their final bedding once they're all out of this bin, so they should get used to it. I must say though, this bedding that I've made here, it's with the leaves of the neem tree. I have got 4 big of these, like 4 huge neem trees outside. I have to say, when you add these leaves, if you add a lot of these leaves to this bedding, it does have a little bit of a smell to it. That's fine. It smells a little bit like poo, if I'm being completely honest. Okay, so that's that basically. Guys, thank you again always for watching. I always really appreciate it. You know that. Please leave comments below. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button and subscribe. Show you boys some love. You know what to do. Yeah, check back in a few days. But other than that, super happy with this. I think I'm actually just leave this on top as well, because that downward pressure will bring all the moisture to the top, and the worms love it. They usually just come straight to it. But really impressed with how many worms are in this. There must be 1,000 baby worms, like juveniles, which is a great thing. So I think I might be ready actually to start loading these worms into the big blue, well, it's not blue anymore, it's olive colour, drum outside, which I need to build some legs for. So as we do that, thank you very much. Be good, big love as always, and I'll see you guys soon.